Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. I'm John Harris. Joining me today is Dr. Robert Kelly, President of the University of North Dakota. Dr. Kelly, thanks for joining us today.
Well, John, thanks for having me on.
As we get started, Dr. Kelly, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your kind of where you're from originally, and maybe a little bit about your career and how you ended up in Grand Forks at the University of North Dakota.
Glad to do that. I was born in Santa Monica, California. Moved at a very early age with my mother and dad to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I grew up there. Graduated from Sandia High School in Albuquerque. Went down to Central Texas to college and out to the University of California at Berkeley for my graduate work. And when I finished up at Berkeley, I was looking for a job and went back to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Had a new medical school there in the late 60s, and I got a job teaching anatomy at a brand new medical school. So I thought I'd stay there for a couple of years, build up my curriculum vitae, develop some credentials, and move on. And 28 years later, I did. Got a little restless after that period of time and had an opportunity to go into some administrative work at the University of Illinois at the Chicago campus. I was an associate vice chancellor for research there. Had been a department head back in New Mexico, kind of got an interest in administration, and then when I had the chance after working at Illinois to move to Wyoming and build a College of Health Sciences, that just seemed like something that I really wanted to do. So my wife Marcia and I spent 9 years there. She was on the faculty, communications disorders, she's a speech-language pathologist, and we put our joint effort behind building a College of Health Sciences at the University of Wyoming. And then one afternoon, I had a call from a search firm that asked if I'd be interested in taking a look at the presidency at the University of North Dakota. And I had some friends on this campus, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to do that. So I said yes, and here I am.
Well, with that, and then so you've had a career there with a lot of history. What are some of the biggest adjustments you've had thus far since moving here? I guess you reported July the 1st.
Yes, started July 1. I think the biggest adjustment has been that my office has been under renovation. So I've been living in a little cubicle. And it's kind of interesting. I feel like people are, expecting me to pop up out of the cubicle every so often. So that's been quite an adjustment. I wouldn't say that we've had too many adjustments. People here are wonderful. They've welcomed us with open arms. We're developing lots of friends, getting to know the University of North Dakota community, the Grand Forks community. If anything, it's just that pleasure and joy of making new friends and meeting a lot of new people. I think that's always the adjustment that you make in a move. President's home is almost completed. We're calling it the University House now. It belongs to the entire university. It's a wonderful place for the president and his family to live. We're getting to know the students. We had a group of students visit us the other night, about 9 o'clock at night, came in with a cake. We spent about an hour and a half with them and had a great time. So the adjustment has been very pleasant for us. We're just having a wonderful experience getting started here.
Well, okay, and you're still the new president because you hadn't been there at least a year. That's what they always tell me. But how have you found the state of the campus, so to speak, the current conditions at UND?
You know, the campus is beautiful. This time of the year in North Dakota is just absolutely lovely. The campus facilities are excellent. We've got some brand new residence halls. One of our new residence halls, the University Place, has been built with recycled concrete. We're very green in that regard. One of my wonderful surprises is we've got green buildings, we've got a green campus, and everyone tells me that athletically they bleed green. So the University of North Dakota is green. We're about as green as you can hope to be. The president's home is on the coulee. That's a lovely, almost a park-like setting. Our laboratories, our medical school facilities, everything is in really very fine condition. So the facilities are wonderful. Laboratories, equipment, all of our instrumentation. You know, you tour the aerospace facilities and all you have to do is look at these flight simulators and you begin to realize how high-tech that campus is. So it's a wonderful place to be. I'm just enjoying getting to know the place.
Oh, good. Well, what are your sort of primary goals as coming in, being the new president? Have you been able to establish those goals yet, or are you working on them?
You know, they're evolving. We're working on them. I think it's difficult to come in from the day one and say, this is what we're going to do point for point. There are several strengths that I certainly want to build upon. Clearly, aerospace is dominant on our campus in the sense of being #1 ranked around the world. We certainly don't want to do anything that would diminish that dominance. We're developing programs in unmanned aerial systems. We've got all of our research and our technology that's geared in many ways towards that, our centers of excellence that are geared toward that. So that's certainly something that I want to build upon and make it even, if you could say it, even more dominant. Our medical school clearly is a jewel in the crown of the state. It's the only one we've got. It's a community-based medical program. What that means is that we rely on the entire health sciences, health systems community around the state to educate our future physicians. That requires a great deal of outreach, a great deal of interaction with other physicians around the state, and that needs to be maintained. We are nationally ranked as a community-based medical school, and we'll certainly maintain that. Our law school is a jewel of our crown. Certainly want to advance the facilities for our law school, our libraries, the research base for our legal faculty, law faculty. So in that regard, there are just numerous strengths. I'm very interested in our College of Business and Public Administration. I think the core that brings to our campus, when you look at our Centers for Innovation, our research foundations, and all of the incubation capacity that we have for economic development there, I think our College of Business and Public Administration is going to be nationally ranked very quickly. And certainly we want to focus on the core, the heart, the arts and sciences, the humanities at the university. That's where most of our students come, that's where they get their start. And that is the heart of our liberal arts education, and we're going to continue that strength. So those are the priorities: maintaining our prominence in higher education, the core functions of our university, and giving the students an opportunity to get engaged at higher education at every level. We've got undergraduates involved in research, preparing them for careers in graduate education. All of that we're going to reinforce. And certainly we're going to continue with our student athletes in Division I.
Well, and we'll talk more about some of those things as we go along. What about the fall enrollment figures? How do they look and how do they compare to the recent years?
We're very excited about that. We've gone through a period of a slight dip, and this year we're coming back up. We're right at 12,750 in our enrollment this year. It's a good number for us. We've still got capacity, but we can deal with that group with very, very high levels of accommodation for our students. We can put them in excellent residence halls. We can present them to excellent faculty. We can provide them with very, very strong programs at the undergraduate and the graduate level. We've got an easy capacity to reach 13,000. And beyond that, we're going to have to start looking at faculty numbers, programmatic issues. But I think we've got capacity to go even to 14,000 over time, and that would be a nice goal for us to have. We're looking at nice increases in the entering freshman class. We're having major increases, 15–18% in our graduate enrollments. So as I look at the overall issues of our enrollment, I'm very happy with them. We're on a trend that I'd like to continue.
Well, you know, what's your viewpoint there about where your students come from and your international students? And do you recruit out there? And what are your thoughts on that?
We do. And one of the goals that I would have for our university is to continue our international global effort. We've got some remarkable programs with China. Just 2 days ago, I renewed an exchange program with the National Kaohsiung Normal University in Taiwan. These are very important to us. We are a premier institution in North America for Norwegian education. We have an American campus in Norway, and so there's a great amount of interchange there with the Scandinavian countries. This brings diversity to our campus. We recruit all over North America. I would love to see us dip even farther south into Central America, and I think that diversity will bring a tremendous advantage to the University of North Dakota, and we will continue that.
Well, and take care maybe a little bit on the students. How about your faculty and staff? How has sort of the reception and the welcome been thus far with your faculty and staff?
My impression of our faculty is just outstanding. I've met now with department heads, I've met with faculty groups, I've met with all of the deans. I think I've met with representatives from just about every college, every center, every institute. I think my overall impression can be summed up in the word dedication. I've never met a group of faculty that are more committed to the university. I've never met a group that are more committed to their disciplines. And they are passionate about what they do. They provide a very high quality education. They are scholars. They have research programs going in a variety of areas. And I think we're running just a very, very high level faculty at a very good research university. So I'm quite impressed with the faculty that I've met. And I will tell you that the ones that I've met are extremely nice people. They have welcomed my wife and myself with open arms, and I'm just enjoying working with them.
Okay. And salaries, teacher salaries, professor salaries always seem to be talked about. Are they competitive at UND? And of course, what is your attitude on how you'll be approaching that?
Well, that's going to have to be one of our state's commitments, and that's clearly a goal, I think, across the state university system. North Dakota is a little low in the national markets at every level. I guess you know that if you start out, you're a new recruit, you've kind of negotiated your salary, and you probably start out fairly close to market. But as you progress through your career at a university, as you get to be an associate professor, full professor, your salary sometimes starts to lag behind because you're no longer able to quite negotiate the same level that you did the moment you walked in the door. So it's those higher, more senior faculty that worry me considerably, and that's where we're starting to fall away from market. So I think we have to pay attention to both faculty and staff salaries. It's not a good thing. If you are committed to an institution, you're committing your career at that institution, you want to grow that institution, only to see yourself falling farther and farther behind. So I think it's an issue for UND, and I know it's an issue across the state system. We'll be addressing that as much as we can as we come into our legislative session. It's a very real opportunity for us to explain what the universities do, the importance of our competitive market salaries within a national and even an international market. We're hiring people from Europe, from Asia. We've got to compete with virtually every other institution across North America and the United States. So this is a very, very competitive market that we're in, and I know our legislature will be listening very carefully as those budgets go forward.
Well, and you bring up legislature. How about dealing with the state legislature? And you talked about salary concerns, but what about your budget concerns then for other items for the university? And with the biennium, and of course, I don't know how you've dealt with it in the past. You know, you get one shot every couple of years to get projects in the works.
It's been a little different from my background, but not entirely different. As you know, North Dakota has a university system, so all 11 of our institutions work with our chancellor to develop our budgets that will go up for approval through the State Board of Higher Education, and it's that budget for the university system that goes on through the legislative process and through the governor's office. So the University of North Dakota, like all of the other institutions, has developed its budget priorities. Those priorities speak to faculty salaries, staff salaries, support for our students, and support for our programs, and support for our facilities. We've prioritized all of those requests, and they've been approved by the State Board. Coming up pretty soon, we'll be presenting our individual budgets before the Office of Management and Budget, and that will help the governor make his recommendation. And that recommendation then goes on to the legislature. I'm really looking forward to that entire process. I'm fascinated by citizen legislatures. I'm getting a chance to meet some of our legislators, probably more up in the Grand Forks districts, but I've met a few others around the state, getting to know them a little bit. I welcome the chance to talk about the University of North Dakota and our goals and our successes and what the university does for the state of North Dakota. And I think our legislature is very supportive of the higher educational system in this state. The roundtable started up in the early part of 2000, 2001. There's going to be a renewal of the emphasis on the roundtable. And I think the emphasis is going to be very clearly defining the goals for economic development that our institutions bring to the state. We've certainly had a major impact in Grand Forks after the flood. UND recovered beautifully, partnered with the city, and now we're flourishing. I know North Dakota State University has the same close relationship with Fargo. So all of this will be built into what we present to our legislature, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, you mentioned a little different situation. How has your impression and dealings been thus far with Chancellor Getz, Bill Getz, the Chancellor of the University System here, and in terms of opportunities and challenges, what do you think about that?
Well, the Chancellor is a very thoughtful guy. He's a very deliberate man. He's very smart, very bright. He's got a broad grasp of the entire state, its politics, its citizenry, and its educational system, and I'm enjoying working with him. I'm learning a great deal from him. My sense is that because of his background, both at Bismarck State and with the governor, he's going to be a very good mentor for all of us, and I think he's going to be a very strong spokesperson for our university system going into the session this year. A biennial session is not unusual. Many of the states across the Midwest and the West have biennial sessions, and you make your case as best you can, and then you manage the budgets as they come back from the legislature. And I think Chancellor Getz has had a lot of experience with that, so he's going to be a very good person to work with. And I enjoy him on a personal level. I'm getting to know him, and I'm sensing that he has a great deal of support, not only for me personally, but for our system. I'm enjoying working with him.
Okay. Well, a lot of topics here, and you touched on some of these earlier, but your background in health sciences, and I assume the medical school, as you talked about, will continue to be a big focus at UND. But tell us more about that.
Well, you know, the health professions, as we all get older, health is something that all of us demand. We deserve to have a certain amount of health care in our lives. And certainly the technologies, the advancement of our knowledge in healthcare delivery is something that we want to continue. It's a public good in that sense. Medicine is perhaps one of the more exciting areas right now because it provides an intersection for technologies. You've got tremendous levels of research, both basic and clinical. You can try out new ideas. You can build upon former knowledge and try to apply that knowledge to the care of the patient and the health of the public in general. So it's a wonderful field to be in. And I think our medical school has some tremendous opportunities ahead of us. We've got very, very strong basic science in the medical school. We've got individuals looking at fundamental questions of the nervous system, how the nervous system regulates itself, how that nervous system impacts our behaviors. We have a brand new behavioral sciences center coming on board and a center for behavioral health. We have investigators, both clinical and applied and basic, that are focusing around this center, trying to understand why we do what we do and what the biological factors are behind our behaviors. Very exciting new area. And then the other issue is providing physicians, internists, primary care physicians for our state. We've got some challenges there because if you look at the national reimbursement rates, they don't favor primary care. They're favoring the specialties. Well, obviously we need specialty care in North Dakota, but you have to ask yourself how many, pick something, plastic surgeons can the state of North Dakota carry, in contrast to internists, obstetricians, gynecologists, family practice physicians, and so on. So I think we've got some opportunities. We've got some residency programs here in the state. We certainly want to grow those. I think we've got some opportunities to look at maybe even reopening some of our residency programs, trying to encourage and incentivize our medical students to stay with us, go into the primary care disciplines, and serve the needs of our state. It's a tremendous challenge. It's one that I get kind of excited about.
I can tell. Well, how about research at UND? What can you update us on some of the important areas that are going on?
You know, I think the research areas at UND are some of the most exciting things that are actually happening right now. One of the things that fascinates me is how we're starting to connect the dots among some of the technologies. I'll give you an example. We've got a new ag cam that we're very excited about. This is going to be shot up and placed on the International Space Station. What this does is it involves the bringing together of people that are interested in remote sensors, the technologies that can sense movements and take images, and then even more than that, analyze what's in the image. Spectrometry, you're getting information up, say, out of the earth, out of the soil. You're asking questions about what's been embedded in that particular plant. How much water is there? Do you have adequate fertilizers in this entire area? And you can spectrophotometrically analyze all of that from space and then transfer that back down and analyze what's going on in that particular plot of land. So you're bringing together technologies in sensors, electronics, space, vacuums, all of the various things, and then image analysis. So it's just a wonderful amalgam of our research activities into a very practical, applied product. We've got some very fundamental things going on, just understanding how the brain works in our neurosciences. Fairly sophisticated things like how do receptors in the brain receive signals from nutritional products, and how does that then impact our behavior? Is this partially behind Alzheimer's? Is that partially behind Parkinson's, neurological disorders? So there's a great deal of research going on in that area, biomedical sciences. I'm also fascinated, I mentioned the behavioral work. We've got some tremendous work going on in computer science, trying to do more advanced programming over in engineering, and we're even seeing some of the research going on in the western part of the state on mining technology. So there's just a tremendous amount of activity right now. It's a very exciting time at UND.
It sounds like it again. And then you mentioned the Center for Aerospace Sciences a little earlier, and obviously I'm assuming it's going to remain a major part of UND under your leadership. But can you expand a little bit more on that?
Well, I think one of the exciting things coming right now is the emphasis that we're placing on unmanned aerial systems. We have preeminent training programs, pilot training, air traffic control training. Some of our sophisticated simulators are second to none anywhere in the world. So yes, we are going to be continuing those activities. But as we bring on this new emphasis, we have a Center of Excellence in unmanned aerial systems. Senator Dorgan has been very helpful to us in getting some of these activities along the Red River Valley Research Corridor. Senator Conrad has been very supportive of these kinds of activities, as has Representative Pomeroy. So with the help of our delegation, with the help of our governor's office, we are starting to put a major emphasis behind unmanned aerial systems. And if you start thinking about connecting dots, the Grand Forks Air Force Base has military applications. Unmanned aerial systems can be used for homeland security. We can use unmanned systems for aerial analysis of agricultural industries. So I think we're going to see much more training involved. We have major contracts now for training of pilots, not only for the military, but for other aviation programs. So that's going to be a major emphasis. The answer to your question is a definite yes. We will continue our emphasis in aerial systems, aerospace.
Well, how about the fundraising for the university? Obviously, any college president probably has this as a role. Can you talk some about the financial state at UND presently?
I would have to say that our endowment is a very critical piece of our overall revenue stream. I like to say that we have 4 major streams of revenues coming into the University of North Dakota. The first one is our state appropriation. Clearly the state appropriation is the foundation that we build on, and that covers about 23-24% of our budget. Another 24-25% comes from our student tuition and fees. Now, obviously you want to keep that affordable. You want to keep tuition as affordable as possible. You want to make higher education accessible to as many people as you possibly can. So that's another major revenue stream for us, but one that we are very reluctant to increase. Third major area is grants and contracts, and we've been talking about the research base, the technology base of the university. That's what conditions our ability to compete for research grants, research contracts. Then there's a piece of that that's just running the business of the universities, the bookstores, all of these kinds of things. A very small percentage is our endowment. So yes, I'm going to have to be spending a lot of time on the endowment. I'll give you a bit of a statistic. About $12,000 of endowment money covers every student enrolled in the University of North Dakota. If you take a school like a Notre Dame, you have about $500,000 covering every student. So you can see we've got a tremendous growth opportunity there in that endowment. That will be the flexibility that we have for growing the University of North Dakota.
Well, Dr. Kelly, I need to ask you, because we don't have much time, but the Sioux nickname has been up in controversy over the last few months and a couple of years. But are you up to speed on that, and where does that sit right now?
Now, when you say up to speed, what exactly do you
Well,
mean?
I mean, yeah, where does it sit right now? Do you understand? Yeah, I don't really know exactly where it is right
I'm
now.
glad you asked. The decision for either continuing or revising the Sioux logo and the name rests with the State Board of Higher Education. And working with the State Board and is the Chancellor, Chancellor Getz. They are in the process of continuing the elements of considering whether to continue or retire the name, and the entire responsibility now lies with them. Once they make that decision, we will move the university forward.
Well, real quick, if people want more information, I wish I had more time with Dr. Kelly. Where can they go?
Well, you can use my website. It's ROKELLEY at mail.und.edu, or you can just call the president's office at the University of North Dakota.
Well, again, Dr. Kelly, we had more questions, but I wish we had more time.
I wish we had to.
Thank you for joining us.
It's been
today.
my pleasure. Thank you, John.
Well, that's all we have this week. As always, thanks for watching.